continue now with those who still and forever are dealing with profound loss. And so many questions still, the families. Martin Langesfeld lost his sister Nikki and brother-in-law Luis in Unit 804. Michael Noriega lost his grandma Hilda, who lived in 602. And we are very grateful that the two of you are here together. I know a lot of families just have been so private, and you two of very few of the 98 families have really stepped up into the public light. And I want to get a sense, Martin, we'll start with you. How are you able to do that and why?
It's really hard. It's really hard. Never having been in front of cameras before, never having to grieve in a way, and then having to step up the plate. I started this before my sister was even recovered. When the land went up for sale, and my sister wasn't recovered yet, I said, how do I get this message out to the world? People need to know what's going on. And my biggest ally was the media. I can either speak to 100 people or I can speak to a camera that the whole world can see. And when I started seeing the impact that you guys as reporters can have, and take that also to the legislative process.
And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's, so you have a specific goal we'll talk about. I want to hear from you, Mike. Your grandma, your dad was a police chief, has been a police chief of various cities, and I think that day, the first inkling I personally had is when I saw Miami Beach's police chief come up on the beach, and I thought, wow. And so you are a very, and somewhat a public family. As a public service entity, you are a public family. Was that difficult for you? And is that part of the reason you find yourself able to be in the public eye?
Absolutely. I think for my father, this was extremely hard for him. That was my grandmother, but it was his mother. It was his last remaining parent.
And she's lived there a long time, right?
She had lived there 20 years. And my dad, he just asked me, it was really truly an honor. He said, listen, will you represent your grandmother's legacy? Will you represent me? And will you represent the inquiries that we get? And it just became the honor of my life. And I think I speak for Martin and I, where we're looking for purpose in the pain, that this shouldn't have happened and should never happen again. And we want to make sure of that.
And part of that is what we've been talking about for most of this hour. And I'm sure you were able to either see the segments that we did, or I know you've been talking to the lawmakers. And I know, Martin, you actually testified in Tallahassee in the committee meetings as these laws were going through. Give us your perspective on, did they do what you think is right?
It was very hard. I don't think they did what was right, because I shouldn't have had to go up there and testify against bills to make it easier for developers and take liability away. And when
explain that.
I got involved because an attorney called me and said, there's a horrible bill being passed that's dropping and taking away liability from developers and pretty much putting it on the innocent property owners. After a few years...
Financially, you're talking about.
Structurally and financially. Let's say they were trying to make it, if a building collapses after 7 years, it's on the unit owner. And when you buy a building, a unit in a building that just got developed 7 years prior, and then it collapses on year 8, it would be on you. And that comes from the developer. No, it got dropped. That's how I got involved. I went to testify against those bills. I said, you should make this stricter now. Why are you loosening up these regulations on developers?
How involved were you in the legislative process, if at all?
No, not at all.
That was not your thing?
Not at all, because my viewpoint on everything has been that there's tragedies that happen all over the world. I mean, from earthquakes to the war in Ukraine and one of the ways that I've carried out my mission is through writing my book, Uncollapsible Soul, because there was those of us that were involved where we lost our loved ones. It's been extremely hard, extremely difficult. But at the same time, there's tragedies that happen all over the world that shouldn't happen. And so it's been to bring purpose to the pain, regardless of whether or not somebody had involvement with the Surfside collapse.
So would it be proper to say you're looking forward instead of back? Is that valid?
Yeah.
Whereas you're in the process.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't a natural disaster. This was negligence. A building just collapsed. And my way of putting purpose is making sure this doesn't happen again by actually getting involved and making sure I push these legislators to make a change, because families can't go through what we went through.
Yeah.
They can't. And it doesn't really matter what religion, what you believe in or what. A building can't collapse in the middle of the night. What happened for a building to fall in 12 seconds?
So when let's go back just a little bit. We talked with Vicky Lopez. I mentioned the Morabito report. You both know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what the Morabito report was? Morabito was the engineer who essentially, his records were right there for years, and in 2018 pointed out all the things that needed to be fixed in the building, and that became a focus right after the collapse. So with this Morabito report, and with what was not done, and now with laws that are looking back and saying, here's what we're going to do now so it doesn't happen again like this, do you think that what is in the laws so far that we've talked about is a good step, first step or whatever, but is it a good step to fix those issues?
I don't think it fixes the issue. What I think is, when we see these reports, what we see is that there were violations from day one. So the problems are coming from the day these developers are putting shovel to the ground and the city and county inspectors go give the green light, and then 30 and 40 years later we see millions of dollars in special assessments. It shouldn't be the unit owners having to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pocket because the county gave a green light on a violation.
Yesterday, I know you all were out yesterday. I know the governor was here yesterday, the mayor of Miami-Dade, all the officials that come out to pay respects to the families, and you're there. And we have some video of that from yesterday. It takes me back to a year ago for the 1 year anniversary, and I don't know about you, but to me it seemed like a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So fast.
Yeah.
And I watched the families going through this ceremony in public. Mike, take us through, let us in a little bit, if you would, since you have graciously been one of those people who did. When the cameras are away and the ceremonies aren't there, what is your day-to-day like in relation to the grieving process?
Well, in the beginning, I knew that I was messed up from this, and I had to go through a healing and a restoration process, because grieving is a process.
Yeah.
It's a cycle. And so at one point I was seeing a therapist and a psychologist, just trying to deal with the pain. And at the time, like you had mentioned, from the very beginning I was doing interviews, and I was just trying to see, now that we've buried my grandmother, now that, is this behind me? Do I just go back to life as it was? Or is there something bigger here? And so I wanted to carry my grandmother's legacy forward by writing a book. And so that's consumed a lot of my time.
Yeah, that's, I think everybody grieves in different ways,
Definitely.
and it's amazing that you've found at least an outlet. I hope you can stick around for a couple more minutes, because I have some more questions. We're going to take a quick break, and so we will have more with Mike Noriega and Martin Langesfeld when we come right back. We are back with Mike and Martin, families of the victims of Champlain Towers South, who so graciously give their time and their voice, sort of representing the families. I know that's not a sanctioned thing, but I feel like, you bring the viewers in and the public in. I want to talk about, I know one of the things you've worked really hard on in particular was the memorial that so many people want on that site. Are you in on that as well? Do you feel like...
I haven't spoken about it publicly.
How do you feel
because
about
it
it?
hasn't been my primary message.
Would you like
but
to
that
see a
would be,
memorial on the site?
Of course, absolutely.
Would you mind if it was not on the site?
For me personally, I would prefer it to be on the site, because for me, my focus has been that my grandmother's legacy is what she left in me. It's not anything that's here on earth. Like, it's not anything that's outside of me.
It's a bit more spiritual for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think a memorial should be there, and where it is not my personal fight.
Yeah.
But
Martin,
I'm for it.
I know that you, I don't want to characterize it as a personal fight, but I've seen you really step up and
I've
really
gotten
fight to have
very
that.
involved in
Yeah.
making sure this memorial goes on the site of the collapse, because we've seen tragedies like 9/11 happen. The cause of that is very different, but once it goes down and that building crumbles and the human remains just vanish on that site, in 9/11 they were able to use 8 acres of the collapse in prime real estate to make sure it gets remembered that here there was a terror attack. In Champlain Towers, it needs to be a place where we remember and we respect. This is the day that legislation got changed. This is the day we respect and we remember the 98 who got taken.
So the entity who purchased this this piece of property at auction, was it this week or maybe a week and a half ago, sent out a press release really about the building that they want to build and used words like luxury and I wonder how that sat with the families fighting to make sure or hope that a piece of that property is for a memorial. Have you talked to the developer at all? Have you established that relationship?
We've tried to, many families have tried to request meetings with the developer, and the only one that's had that meeting is Mayor Shlomo Danziger, who had a secret meeting in Dubai. What happened behind those doors? We need transparency as families, not the mayor to go and meet with the developer and not let us know what happened behind those doors. We're just asking for a memorial to go on the site of the collapse, be incorporated. We're not trying to stop that development.
And what is the city's position as far as you understand it?
I have no contact with him anymore.
It's private land.
It is. Like yesterday I had to do my separate press conference before the event because they don't want me speaking about these things in public.
In the short time we have left together, I know there was a settlement last year, just at about this time. The judge in the case was able to reach $1 billion settlement for the families. There's a lot of layers of drama there, but for our purposes today, there were entities that paid into this settlement who were accused of having a part in that collapse.
Well, the entities didn't pay, insurance companies paid. No one took liability.
And that was actually going to be my question to you and to Mike. How does that sit with you that although there was this payment, nobody has accepted any kind of responsibility?
There's no responsibility. There's no liability. I think it was around 40 defendants. Who's liable? Insurance companies can't just pay their way out of this. Someone has to be liable. It's been 2 years and we don't know the cause of the collapse. Why did this fall? Who is liable? It's not just an insurance company. There's people behind these companies. And if it was faulty inspections, where's the inspector? What other buildings did he inspect?
You can see the anger and frustration. Do you feel the same?
Absolutely. I firmly believe that the 98 that died, they didn't just die. Their lives were taken. Their lives were robbed. And I hope this never happens again.
Is it more painful because there is no closure? Is that a thing?
You know, it's painful because we don't understand why, I think is what it comes down to.
And there will never be closure, you know?
Yeah.
Ever. Because at the end of the day, your question is going to be, regardless of the cause, you're going to say, why was my family in there that night?
Yeah, and it's something that we may never understand why it happened. All we can really control is, number one, making sure that this never happens again, but also controlling our attitude and our activity going forward from it. It's really our responsibility in how we respond, and I think that's why you have Martin and I on here today.
Mike Noriega, Martin Langesfeld, we are very grateful for your time, and as always, everyone here is just with you and your families in spirit 100%.
Thank you, Glenna.